Hello, good evening. Amid an ongoing military operation in the West Bank, dubbed Iron Wall since today, tensions have escalated following recent bus explosions in Israel. In response, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered intensified military operations in the West Bank. The current military actions have led to the displacement of over 40,000 Palestinians. Concurrently, the Knesset has passed a controversial bill that bans entry to individuals who deny the events of October the 7th or support the prosecution of Israeli soldiers for alleged war crimes. Furthermore, a newly advanced bill seeks to criminalize cooperation with the ICC, the International Criminal Court, imposing prison sentences on individuals or organizations aiding the court in its investigations against Israel. This legislation reflects broader efforts to suppress accountability for human rights violations amidst ongoing military actions that have led to substantial displacement among Palestinian communities. Welcome to our special coverage. Welcome back. Arab News reports that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered an intensified military operation in the West Bank following explosions on 3 buses near Tel Aviv. The blast, described as an attempted mass attack, caused no casualties but triggered a sweeping military response. The operation, which follows a month-long crackdown, has resulted in mass displacements and infrastructure destruction. The timing of these attacks raises questions about whether they justify such an escalation, but Israeli officials argue they signal a growing militant threat. The broader implications include heightened regional instability and worsening humanitarian conditions for Palestinians. Jurist highlights Israel's legal response to mounting international security, particularly the ICC's arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant, issued in November. Aiding investigations and barring ICC representatives from entering Israel. While Israel and its allies reject the ICC's ruling as politically motivated, 16 countries have signaled willingness to comply with the court's arrest orders. This development deepens legal and diplomatic divides, raising critical questions about accountability and the ICC's role in enforcing international law. Now, to help us delve deeper into these developments, we are joined from New York by Ahmed Maharam, who is a writer and political researcher, and Nohan El-Sheikh, who is a political science professor. Thank you to both of you for joining us. Mr. Maharam, what do you make of the Israeli military escalation in the West Bank following these bus bombings near Tel Aviv?
Well, it could be different reasons, but mainly because they could not succeed after 15 months to do what they were dreaming to do in Gaza. And they were faced by so many rejection from the Arab countries and the international wallet. So there's a failure of what is Benjamin Netanyahu was trying to achieve in Gaza. I think this is his time to do more escalating in West Bank, because he has the capability, military, and the support from America as well to do what he would like to do. West Bank is more, I think, important at that moment for him to show any kind of achieving what he was trying to do, any kind of success. West Bank is the next step for him to achieve his old dreams, to remove the Palestinians from their own land and show their own people that the more security will be attempt after removing the Palestinians from their own land, because he has to feel another struggle and failure in the future with Gaza people. So this is the piece of cake in his eyes and in his mind to do what he would like to do right now in West Bank.
And Dr. El Sheikh, how do you view the recent escalation in the West Bank? And from a legal perspective, how do Israel's military actions align with humanitarian law?
Actually, the escalation started last August when Israel initiated or started its operation in West Bank. And by all means, it's violating all human rights rules, human rights organizations, has many comments on what Israel is doing. Up to the date, more than 900 Palestinians were killed during such operation, and nobody know what is Israeli actually seek to in West Bank, unless that to push forward the Palestinians to leave their land, to leave their homes toward Jordan. Israel actually attacking civilians in camps, in very bad situation and in very unhuman situation and living standard. Although all that, Israel attacked them, and is now trying to justify what is going on West Bank. I can't believe that Israel cannot find who the one responsible for that bombing or 3 passes. By the way, nobody wounded or killed in the 3 passes. They were totally empty. And one Israeli was arrested as a suspect involving by way or another in that. So I think they are just trying to find a justification to the horrible operation they are started. Up to the date, it's more than 6 months in the West Bank.
Thank you for that, Dr. El Sheikh. It was worth saying that no one was killed in these buses, wasn't it, Mr. Muharram? So coming to you, is it just that Israel uses any excuse to escalate situations? And also, will there be long-term political implications of this intensified crackdown, especially when it comes to Palestinian resistance?
I think you're right on that question, because it's very clear and known to everybody that Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli military power would like to do any kind of action like that to create more problems and to blame the Palestinians and to give a chance for the military to attack more and more. I guess there is some kind of doubt if that kind of incident is really was done particularly in order to put the Palestinian as a target in West Bank and give the power and give the authority to the military to do as much as they can. I think it is a kind of escalating, but sometime and somehow it has to be stopped and find other way to regulate the matter.
And going back to you, Dr. El Sheikh in Cairo, what do you make of Israel's recent legal measures seeking to restrict documentation of operations, like the media blackout they've imposed on investigations currently, and also them looking to criminalize cooperation with the ICC? What does this mean for transparency and accountability?
Netanyahu and his defense minister already in charge of humiliating human rights and attempted criminals in West Bank and in Gaza. And I think there is a rule against them, but nobody trying to implement it. I mean, the one who can implement it, the United States, vice versa, impose sanctions over the judges in the International Criminal Court. I think that Israel violating all human rights rules and all international humanitarian law and international law generally. And unfortunately, the international power which can stop Israel or can judge Israel or can push Israel to stop its acts, unfortunately, it's totally support Israel and support all what it is doing, particularly after Trump came to the White House. Nobody now talking about the crimes Israeli commitment in either in West Bank or in Gaza, forcing Palestinians to leave their homes and lands. It is a big crime, although all the justification or whatever they are trying to pretend that it is in favor of the Palestinian interests. So I think Israel is out of charging, out of any international law or international humanitarian law, and it is it seems that it even doesn't care a lot about such rules, and even the UN regulations and the resolutions. It is all that Israeli seems that it is not paying attention to any of that.
And Mr. Muharrem, you mentioned earlier on that Israel moved on to the West Bank because it couldn't get its fulfill its objectives in Gaza. They claim, the Israeli government claims, that they're targeting militant networks in the West Bank. Do you see that as credible, and do you think they can achieve their stated security objectives?
I think it's going to be more complicated in the West Bank because it is, as an area, it's a smaller, and it is surrounded with so many Israeli communities, plus the power of the people of Palestine. They defended their land in the West Bank. It's a very complicated kind of network. It is not under tunnel as Gaza, but I think the people, they try to defend the land over there are more supposed to be more aggressive, because what they have seen for the last 15 months in Gaza, they have to do some kind of payback to their colleagues. Some of them already, they lost their life, and some they still struggling and forcing all these difficulties. So I think it's not as easy as Israel expecting. It's going to be much harder for them than what happened for the last 15 months in Gaza.
And Dr. El-Sheikh, it's 3 months now since the ICC issued the arrest warrants for Netanyahu and his now former minister, Gallant. How has this decision affected Israel's diplomatic standing? Has it made any difference at all with key players in international relations?
Unfortunately, up to the date, I see no difference. He was hosted in the President of the United States, and he's moving, I think, fairly, at least within the countries that supporting him, either in Europe or in the States. So I think there is no that much difference in reality. Yes, there are charges. It is by all means not good for Israel, such decisions, but on practical or on land, there is nothing happened. Up to the date, the operation in West Bank continue. In Gaza also, there is no step forward. And I think what they are doing now is not only to complicate the situation in West Bank, but also to create problems for the second phase of negotiation concerning Gaza and ceasefire in Gaza. So I think it's up to the date. There is no any sign that Israel change or even little change in its behavior generally in the Palestinian land.
And coming back to you, Mr. Muharrem, in New York, given the large scale of displacement of Palestinians, from where you're sitting, how do you assess the humanitarian and political consequences of these military operations?
Well, it's going to be more harder because humanitarian assistance usually under the siege of Israel is really tough. But within the agenda of Benjamin Netanyahu and his military forces, it could be more harder. I hope within the upcoming meetings in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and in Cairo, Egypt, some kind of pressure can be forced by the international community in order to give Israel a kind of time frame that humanitarian assistance has to be in time, and there is no restriction from the Israeli power to stop what the community are agreed to assist and help the Palestinian and all these kind of different situations.
And Dr. El-Sheikh, Israel is advancing laws that penalize cooperation with the international courts. Also, we mentioned this at the start of our program, banning entry to anyone who denies the official version of events of October the 7th, anyone who supports the prosecution of Israeli soldiers for war crimes. How might this unwillingness to accept the ICC, how might this impact future investigations into the alleged war crimes?
Actually, before, by the way, the International Court, Criminal Court, had many decisions, and by way or another, it wasn't respected. Maybe like al-Bashir in Sudan, for example, and many other examples. So the problem, not only in Israel, but the way how to force those decisions or such decisions. Who can force? Because the court, unfortunately, has no executive branch or hand. So how to implement its decisions and to take procedures? I think it needs to be re-evaluated. Maybe through the UN, they can do something about how to implement the decision of the International Criminal Court. And I think it's a time also for the global South to do something against such violation of human rights. It is very important to stand together against Israel. By a way or another, maybe some sanctions, maybe something like that, or at least a declaration that from African summit, from the next Arab summit, etc., that they refused what is going on and stuck with the ICC resolution to stop whatever Israel is doing. I think it's a point of weakness in international law and UN procedures, which should be revised by anyway.
Well, that's a good point, isn't it, Mr. Bahar? And we had quite a big reaction from the African summit earlier in the week. We have the Arab summit, the ongoing Arab summits that take place. The next one, of course, on the 27th here in Cairo. How do you evaluate the regional reaction to these developments, particularly from Arab states and across the broader Middle East?
Well, I think it seems like for the first time after different decades, Arab League have shown how much they are concerned about the matter, and maybe what's happening can give a kind of hints to all Arab leaders that they have to be unit and they have to have a strong, reaction to the matter. Especially, they got support also from the international community. I think African also are doing a good part in that. Hopefully, by Thursday in Saudi Arabia, the first meeting, and then 27th of March in Egypt. I think it was postponed to the 4th of March, not 27th of February. But in both cases, there is a big hope that something can happen to give Israel a kind of respect that what they have doing in the past cannot be continued in the future.
And coming back to you, Dr. El-Sheikh, how worried should we be that this Israeli Knesset ban on cooperation with the ICC will set a dangerous precedent for other states seeking to avoid accountability and seeking to commit war crimes? We've had people like Slobodan Milosevic in the past. Why should the international community take heed of what the ICC says if Israel's allowed to flout it?
Yes, unfortunately, it is a very negative message because simply it means that if you have power, you will be protected from any ICC or any UN resolution against the state. But if you don't have enough power, and you are a small country or that weak enough, it will be implemented on you. So it is actually will create some kind of lack of confidence in UN, in ICC, in international law, and it will push forward and forward to have enough power that would complicate so many conflicts all over the world, and will push many countries to have and to escalate arms race in many regions, which is not, I think, good for the stability and security, international and world stability and security. We need to focus more on what is common, like climate change, like other challenges which face the whole world, not to put more and more money in arms race and to have power enough, and maybe it also will push other countries to maybe develop nuclear weapons and nuclear powers. This is very dangerous for the whole world, and actually whilst our wealth and our effort in other areas, which is danger and not providing peace and stability in the world.
Now, where you are, Mr. Muharrem, in the United States, is not a signatory to the International Criminal Court. What is the public opinion about that? Do most Americans, believe that the United States is right to stand apart and to support Netanyahu's feelings towards the ICC?
Well, Americans has, like any other country, some people are educated and they know exactly what is the benefit and the unbenefit, and some other people are Trumpawi. So I think what I can see, they can see that the future of America is in danger, because what the president is doing for the first time in his cabinet, with the second time in his cabinet, it is not on the favorite of the America prestige around the world, politically and economically. He has so many executive orders, and some or most of them were rejected internationally and locally as well. So I think some good number of Americans, they are well known about what's going on in the world. They are educated. They don't like exactly the way President Trump is trying to do. That will take America on another era, which it's bringing it back to other era, which other countries are more advanced to do. That's what Trump is doing. It is going to give more chances and power for other international power, China and Russia, to go more and more and get better chances than America.
And Dr. El-Sheikh, in your assessment, have recent developments hurt Netanyahu in his public standing within Israel itself? What is public opinion like at the moment there?
I think since the moment of hostage, etc., there were so many protests and against Netanyahu. Some of them were really huge, and even attacking his home, etc., calling for resigning. But I don't know, I doubt a lot that Israel is really a democratic state. They pretend they are democratic, and the United States considered Israel the only democracy in the Middle East. But I doubt a lot, because if Netanyahu listened to his people, I think the developments would be in completely in different way. Even nowadays, he is putting some problems, some obstacles on the second phase of negotiation. Although many people inside wanted it. Yes, they have far right, and they are pushing forward to back to war, but there is also a very strong peace stream and peace powers in Israel that calling for peace, calling for ending such conflicts and war, and to enjoy peace within Israel.
Okay, well, it's a mixed bag of opinion, as it often is. I'd like to thank you both very much for being a part of the program. Dr. Nohan El-Sheikh joining us from Cairo, and Ahmed Moharram joining us from New York. Thank you very much for being here with us. Now, as the situation evolves, the international community faces growing pressure to mediate a resolution while ensuring adherence to international legal standards. We here at Q News will continue monitoring the latest developments and provide further analysis as the situation unfolds. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.